I don't know about you, but the draft just kind of snuck up on us. We're talking about March Madness, NBA playoffs, MLB starting. You have the NHL playoffs going on as well. And lo and behold, the draft's in like 2 days.
I know, it kind of did come out of nowhere. We've
Yeah.
spent like the last month kind of in the zone on all
Everything
of these.
else, yeah.
But now we're going back to our roots, back to the NFL where the true sorcery occurs.
Yeah, no, this is where the magic happens for sure. This is where our specialty lies. And I feel like the reason why it kind of got swept under the rug for a little bit is everyone just got tired of talking about the same old thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's just get it over with so we can finally, see what happens and then go from there. All this speculation can get a
Right.
little redundant after so long. But what we're going to do today is speculate some more. It's our final mock draft of the first round. And hopefully we end up getting some things right. That'd feel really good.
Yeah, no, that definitely would. I mean, the NFL analysts who are doing like 7 mock drafts, they're bound to get their picks right. I mean,
Yeah.
they study
I know,
it 24/7 and and they can just draw from any of their drafts and be like, "Oh, see, I told you."
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
This guy was going here.
We're
but-
just doing 2.
Yeah.
And in fact, last time we each put out 1. This time we came to a consensus agreement between the 2 of us on what we're going to tell you guys. So before we get into that, though, let's just recap a couple things. NFL news. Zach Wilson and a 7th-round pick have been traded to Denver Broncos for a 6th-round pick. So finally, the Zach Wilson saga in New York is over. Thank God. I really hope I never see this guy start a game again. I do think Denver will draft somebody, and I really do think that player will outperform Zach in training and all that stuff, all preseason competitions, whatnot. I really, really don't think Zach Wilson's got it in him.
I don't think he's got it in him either. However, I've got a feeling that he'll probably end up getting another start here or there from either injuries or just if whoever they draft isn't necessarily ready to go in
It's
the
very
first few weeks
possible.
yet.
It's very possible.
So I don't think we'll truly be seeing the end of Zach Wilson, but he's not going to be staying here for long. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I hope not, because every time I watch him play is just like the most sloppy,
Yep.
nails on a chalkboard football I've ever seen.
Even when he
at
manages
the professional level.
Even when he manages to beat the Eagles, it's still sloppy.
He didn't do
in
anything
poor
in that
fashion.
game. Yeah, it's
I
not
know.
like he threw for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards in that game.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just the best game he had was against the Chiefs. I mean, what?
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 touchdowns, like 200 yards. Yay. It's like a standard performance for most quarterbacks.
Right.
But anyways, moving past that, little NBA playoff recap. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so the NBA playoffs started last week, and they kind of went, for the most part, pretty much exactly what I predicted. There was one play-in game that I did not get right. So Sacramento actually beat Golden State, and I was pretty impressed by that. They honestly kind of pounded them. I think they won 118-94, or maybe 108-94, something like that, but it wasn't even really that close. So good for Sacramento. However, it didn't really matter because then they lost to the Pelicans in the play-in game. So the Pelicans ended up sneaking into the playoffs as the 8th seed. However, the Lakers did beat the Pelicans in that the first round of the play-in games, which is exactly what I said would happen. So glad that I bet on the Lakers there. Pelicans suck. And then the next set of games, Chicago Bulls at Atlanta Hawks. Chicago won, as we said they would. You had that as one of your best bets as well. Easy win. And then Philly against the Heat. Philly won this game. Again, what we said. And then the Bulls and Miami played for the play-in game, and Miami won again. So that brought us into round 1 of the playoffs, and none of the series have ended yet. But we did get quite a few of those games right. I don't want to run through all of them. I'll recap them once all of the round 1 games are over. But the playoffs have been exciting so far, and they have went for the most part as we kind of expected.
Yeah, for sure. I was surprised about the Kings, Sacramento being Golden State, and very disappointed that the Bulls got pounded by the Heat in the second play-in game, especially without Jimmy Butler. That was very disappointing. What a horrible effort.
To be the way that the Heat do things. They just like to be right on the precipice of getting into the playoffs, you know?
Right on the cusp. Yeah. But I really don't think they will have a whole lot of success.
No, I don't think they'll even make it past Boston here.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Boston's favored over them by like 15 points, which is crazy for the playoffs.
Right, yeah. The discrepancy is absolutely insane. But getting past that, let's move on to our NFL Mock Draft 2.0 here. We're going to run through it. A lot of it stayed the same. So we're going to try and highlight more so the differences from the original mock draft. We absolutely still have Caleb Williams going to the Bears at number 1. I don't see any trades happening here. I don't think the Bears are going to let go of that first round pick. It's like a kid in the cafeteria. He's got his nice sour cream and onion chips, and he's not trading them for a pack of grapes. Like, he doesn't want anything but his chips. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as soon as the Bears traded Fields, it pretty much solidified it in my mind. Like, all right, they're obviously going to be taking Caleb, and if they were to have traded the pick by now, I feel like they already would have. So it's going to be Caleb at number 1.
It's locked in. At number 2, it seems like the narrative is switched from Drake May going the 2 to now Jaden Daniels. It's really crazy just how time can change things like this because nothing has happened play-wise. There haven't been any new games.
Yeah.
At the end of the college football season, Drake May was very much so favored to go number 2. Now, Jaden Daniels is very much so favored to go number 2. And this is even after Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. But I just want to warn everyone, even though we are going to say Jaden Daniels will indeed go at 2 to the Commanders, I don't think he will be better than Drake May. Jaden Daniels padded his stats against Georgia State and Grambling, an FCS school, and a bunch of other lowly teams, all while losing still 3 games. A whole bunch of other quarterbacks I thought did more impressive things this year. Michael Penix Jr. went undefeated. Although he didn't quite have the stats, he's been more consistent over the last couple of years, and he played way better competition. He played Oregon twice, beat them, beat USC, Caleb Williams, the number 1 pick. So I don't understand, honestly, why he won the Heisman. And I'm even struggling more to understand why everyone has him going at number 2, or at least why it just seems like that's where it's going. And that's just how we're going to say it. I mean, we want to be right. That's why we're saying this, but I don't think in the long term he'll be better.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, it kind of seems like Drake May's got like diminishing marginal returns here with this time constraint. As time went on, his value just decreased, whereas
for sure
Jaden Daniels operating on that upward sloping utility curve.
Yeah, I mean, it's all these guys that just thrive and flourish from the postseason, the Senior Bowl, thrown in their pajamas type of events like that.
All the chatter about it, too. Just these people talking about it gets them excited. The
same thing is happening with J.J. McCarthy to a much larger extent. We'll get to that. But we'll have then Drake May going number 3 to New England. Although that fit doesn't seem quite right. It just seems like the Patriots are going to have to take him. There isn't going to be like the drop off between Drake and then like Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy, for God's sakes, and Michael Penix Jr. is quite large, I think. So Drake May at number 3. Number 4, we have Marvin Harrison Jr. still going to the Cardinals after trading away Hollywood Brown. They absolutely need somebody. It's a must.
Yep.
It's a non-negotiable here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's, just undeniable. They're going to be taking Marvin Harrison if they have the 4th pick. However, I did see like a mock draft that talked about them swapping over with the Giants and moving down to the 6th pick and taking someone like Rome Odunze instead, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know why they would want to pass up this generational talent on Marvin Harrison, especially when they're so lackluster at wide receiver. So I don't love Arizona trading picks here. I really would like to see them get Marvin.
It depends on what else they would get in return. I would more prefer them to take Malik Neighbors and not Rome Odunze if they were to trade down, though, because I do think Malik Neighbors has the potential to be almost maybe better than Marvin Harrison Jr. It depends on where they land and what quarterback is throwing them the ball. And that also speaks to my point about why I don't think Jaden Daniels will be as good as Drake May. You don't see any North Carolina receivers in this first round where you do have 2 in like the top 15 of most mock drafts. for LSU, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, Jalen Daniels had an absolute track team. These guys were wide open half the time. So it just doesn't speak as well to his skill level, in my opinion, as Drake May did more impressive things with less talent. But it's neither here nor there. We're going to move on to the next pick at 5, the Chargers. And I do believe here they are going to beef up the offensive line with Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. They definitely need to protect Justin Herbert after, he was dealing with some injuries last year. However, I could see them also taking a wide receiver after they lost Keenan Allen.
It's actually a good point.
Yeah, and, they lost Mike Williams. They kind of have was it like Quentin Johnston is the top receiver right now? So, I mean, yeah, they have a need at both of those positions. Still like the Joe Alt pick, but I think they could use a receiver as well. So wouldn't be surprised if either one of those ends up being taken.
That's a really good point. I kind of glazed over that, but they definitely do need a receiver there in Los Angeles. Moving on to the 6th pick here. We do have the Giants taking Malik Neighbors. They might need a receiver even worse than the Chargers. It's actually crazy how these 3 teams in a row are so lacking in that position. The Cardinals, Chargers, and the Giants.
Yeah.
I think the Giants get really good value here at 6 with Malik Neighbors because you're right. The Chargers could very easily take Malik Neighbors at 5. But yeah, Malik Neighbors, like I said, he could be just as good, if not better, than Marvin Harrison Jr. Really depends on who's throwing them the football in their careers. But yeah, I think this is a great pick here. And again, non-negotiable for the Giants. They have to take a receiver.
Yeah, they do. I like the pick with Malik Neighbors. I am concerned about his success, though, if Daniel Jones is still tossing him the ball.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair claim.
I don't think Daniel Jones is there to stay for too much longer. He'll probably, have his chances, this year still, but I really don't like his long-term outlook on the team.
Yeah, the Giants really could use a quarterback here as well, but I think they will have to give Daniel Jones another chance just because of how much money they're paying him. See how it goes, and then who knows? We might be looking at Giants having the first pick in next year's draft and then taking
possible.
Cam Rising or someone like that, whoever ends up being the first pick in next year's draft.
Yeah.
Number 7, Minnesota, swapping picks with the Titans and begrudgingly taking J.J. McCarthy.
This is a big move here. This is a big claim for us to make.
This is gargantuan. Again, we're trying to be right here. I really don't think there's any value in this. This is negative value. J.J. McCarthy's not ready yet. He is not deserving of the 7th overall pick. A lot of people agreed with me at this point. Probably right around the national championship, during the playoffs, college football playoffs. JJ, if he entered the draft, which most people didn't think he would, people thought he was going to do another year. But if he did, he would be a 3rd to 4th round pick. He did not do much at Michigan. He was a game manager. He did what was expected, but he did not play outside the system and do anything spectacular. I like him. I was rooting for Michigan to win the national championship. But if you watch that game, he was 10 for 17 for 150 yards. It's not like he balled out. During the Alabama game, his first throw was an interception that got called back, luckily, on some penalty. He did have 3 touchdowns in that game, but they were relatively easy ones. So I just am struggling to wrap my head around this J.J. McCarthy hype. But again, that just seems to be where everything's going. The narrative. It's kind of like with Mitchell Trubisky several years ago. Well, it's a long time ago now, but there was just a huge amount of hype built up around him based on what he did in just the most recent few months of the season. And he ended up not turning out to be the success everyone hyped him up to be. Now, Will Levis last year was similarly hyped, but then he fell to the 2nd round. I wonder if that could happen with J.J. McCarthy, where everyone's kind of talking him up, and then, shockaroo, he actually falls to the lower half of the 1st round. I could definitely see that happening. It's happened before, but it's also happened where they get, talked up so much they do get taken so high. So we'll see, but I do have, Minnesota, again, they have to take a quarterback at this point. That's another non-negotiable here in the draft, and we're going to have them take him JJ.
Yeah, it almost just feels like a desperation move for some of these teams here because there's so many guys or so many teams rather who are like they need a QB. I mean, you've got, Washington, New England and Giants, Minnesota and even like Denver, Las Vegas. Like all of these teams need a QB and so they're probably just having a hard time figuring out like, all right, do we want to like pick JJ McCarthy or, someone who could potentially have some good talent here down the line, or do we just want to keep riding with one we have? And so even though he doesn't have the talent, at least not yet, I think the teams are struggling to figure out whether or not they should draft him now because of that. And it's just feeling like more of a move out of desperation than out of his true prowess or ability.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
He needs to develop his prowess a little bit more over the next couple of years. He needs to sit behind somebody like a Geno Smith or, I don't know, man. Maybe you go to Vegas, sit behind Gardner Minshew. Those are not even the best mentors in the world, to be honest. I mean, just there's not that many spots for him right now, I don't think, unless you really are playing like Green Bay was with Jordan Love. Who's a veteran quarterback in the league right now who could be leaving in the next couple of years? Like, if you're the Cowboys, you draft J.J. McCarthy, you think maybe Dak Prescott gets shipped off, gets traded in a couple of years or so because he's always failed to, take the Cowboys where they need to go in the postseason. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I just don't think that he'll fall that far given like the hype he's been getting and all these analysts who are, projecting him as a top 5 pick now, which is still crazy to me. But
mind-blowing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Atlanta. Taking Dallas Turner at 8.
This one is the same.
This is the same, yeah. I feel really confident about this. They need somebody.
They badly.
Yeah, they really do. They have a good secondary, but they need a little bit more pressure generated. At 9, Chicago taking Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. They don't really need a receiver at this point, which is what we had them taking last time in this spot. After getting Keenan Allen. I really don't think that's where their attention needs to be. Surely they could draft someone in the second, third, fourth round.
Yeah, I mean, all their skill positions are kind of rounded out now. They'll have QB. They've got the receivers. They've got the running back and DeAndre Swift. It's like pick your O-line and, protect Caleb and then
absolutely
fill in the spots, wherever you need from there.
Yeah, I don't even think it would make sense to take Brock Bowers here with Cole Kmet already on the roster.
Right. Yeah, there wouldn't be, too significant of an upgrade because Kmet's already solid.
Exactly. But I do have the Jets, the next pick here, taking Brock Bowers. This feels like a really good fit. Like, who's the Jets tight end? Like Tyler Conklin?
Oh.
CJ Uzoma maybe now? I don't know.
Little timeshare of the two, I think.
Yeah, you can't even, name who it is right now. They don't have a star tight end, let alone, a serviceable, somewhat productive tight end. So I think this is a good fit. Someone that Aaron Rodgers hopefully can come to trust. And they can go on an offensive tear, which I think they are aiming to do this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a nice way to round out their offense with, Garrett Wilson at receiver and, a top tight end too.
Mike Williams.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about Mike Williams. Yeah. So that would really give Aaron plenty of opportunity to really just air the ball out to these guys here.
Yeah, I like this pick here. I would not be surprised if they took someone for the offensive line, though, because, again, you got to protect Aaron as well.
He's getting really up there in age.
He's getting a little long in the tooth. So here's Tennessee's pick now that they traded with Minnesota for. They are going to take J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama here. Just seems like, again, protect Will Levis, support your young quarterback, and that is that. Do kind of feel like they would have preferred Joe Alt, but because they traded back, that felt like a good fit in our last mock draft, but he will definitely not make it down to 11 here.
Right.
Denver, I feel really good about this one still. Bo Nix, QB of Oregon, going to Denver. They need a quarterback here. We just talked about them training for Zach Wilson. We all know what Zach Wilson is. We saw probably 2 more years than we needed to of starts from Zach Wilson just because everyone around him was either injured or even worse than he is. That's the reason why we got to see him so much. And so I think it's absolutely time here for Denver to draft somebody. Bo Nix seems like a great fit for Sean Payton's offense. And yeah, I had this one, my sights on this one since day one. I still feel strongly about it.
Yeah, you've always been really confident in this pick, and I like it too. I hope that he gets the start immediately over Zach Wilson if
I
he gets
think,
picked there.
I mean, I could see him sitting behind them for a little bit. It's very possible, but I don't think it's worth it. Zach Wilson's no mentor.
Yeah.
And he was trying to learn from Aaron Rodgers the last few years or the last year, and it doesn't seem like that really did anything. No. It's time for him to just be a backup or third string for the rest of his life. I'm sorry, Zach Wilson. Go after some more MILFs. I mean, this is what it is. Division rival Vegas here, also taking a quarterback, and a rival of Bo Nix, who always owned him, though. Michael Penix Jr. beat him 3 times in college. I know. And now they're going to face off twice a year.
That is exciting.
Hopefully.
Hopefully this is right, yeah.
Yeah. So I know someone commented on our first mock draft that Vegas would not take a quarterback. And I do feel a little bit more worried about this pick because they have Gardner Minshew, they have Aiden O'Connell, who both probably have some more starts in them in their career because they didn't really do anything too egregious to get them, to be relinquished to the bench for all of eternity like Zach Wilson, I feel, has.
Right.
But they need a long-term answer at the QB position. I think that's Michael Penix Jr. here. I just really believe in him. I don't think he'll have the injury concerns, or I don't think he is worthy of all those concerns that people are kind of making it out to be. I really like him at the spot.
Yeah, I mean, they already have some nice skill position players. They've got Devontae Adams and they've got Jacoby Myers, who, I mean, it's a star receiver and a great number 2. I mean, Jacoby Myers feels like a T. Higgins to me almost. Like you put him on a different team and he could potentially be that, not necessarily that guy, but like he would be like a solid, option.
He's a good number 2. Okay. But it's a good offense, though. Yeah. I think Zamir White will be a good back for them as well without Jacobs in there.
Yeah, so they've got some, some solid people all around, but not at QB. So they need to take one.
As much as I like Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
New Orleans, we still have taking Jared Verse here, edge rusher out of FSU. Again, they just need to generate some more pressure. Their offense was clicking along well as the year progressed last season. So now they just need to shore up that defensive side of the ball. Indianapolis, I feel like they definitely need a receiver here to support Anthony Richardson. Michael Pittman's nice. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. And I know I said in our original mock draft, I did not see them. I did not like that. And I still am a little tentative, but at this point, it's almost like best player available.
That's true.
Rome Odunze is a great piece here.
Yeah, some people have him going inside the top 10, top 8.
I don't really see. I don't like that, but
if he falls to 15,
I'd say that's good value. But Indianapolis kind of is like solid everywhere, so like they could really just take anything, add some depth. Like I could totally see them taking a defensive player, offensive tackle, wide receiver. I could see any of it. You know what I mean? So
no, I agree.
The only thing that they would not take is a running back or a quarterback, and that's all I can tell you. Like that's literally it. All right, Seattle here, who I originally thought would be a good fit for J.J. McCarthy, maybe the best fit on the board here. Seems fair to me that he would go after Penix Jr. and Nix, but again, just doesn't seem like that's where it's going. So we have Seattle now taking Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA. Seattle's defense really struggled down the stretch last year, so I think that's a major reason why Pete Carroll had to go. So I think to kind of shore up that defense, you have a defensive-minded coach, Mike McDonald, now in there from the Ravens. I just think that this is the direction they're going to want to go right off the gate here.
Yeah, they really got to add someone for the extra pressure, getting behind or past the line of scrimmage rather to get to the QB because, Seattle did really struggle with that.
Yeah. Then we have Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama here, going to Jacksonville at 17. Their defense also really struggled down the stretch. I'm trying to think about some of those ugly games they had. I mean, they gave up 28 points to the Titans in the final game. I think they gave up around 30 points to the Browns. I mean, they were just giving up points left and right.
They were.
Oh, I mean, the Panthers, I think they beat like 9-0 or something stupid like that. But, man, some of those games toward the end there, they got their doors blown off. I mean, Jake Browning went up and down the field on them. Oh, God. So they need some defensive help, and Terrion Arnold's going to do that here.
Jacksonville's got a lot of issues I feel like they need to fix. They
could use a receiver, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they ended the year very poorly. There's honestly a lot of need that team has that they could fill in with multiple different positions here, so I could see them going. I could see them going with Terry and Arnold, or like you mentioned, a receiver or something else, just to really kind of buff up that team.
Up next here, we have Cincinnati taking Taliese Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State. The reason why I like this, a lot of people kind of have Cincinnati going the receiver route here, but it does appear that they will be able to retain T. Higgins, obviously Jamar Chase. So their Achilles heel has always been the offensive line. I mean, the reason I think they didn't win the Super Bowl the year they were in it is because of their offensive line. So why not attack that area of need with Taliese Fuaga?
And they got to protect Burrow, man.
They
Burrow
absolutely
is the key to their
Yeah.
team. The key
Can't
to their
have
success.
him getting injured again here. Just cannot have that.
Mhm.
The Rams here, who beat them in the Super Bowl, taking Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson. I think this is how we had it, or at least how I had it in the last one. Their defense was also pretty poor. I mean, Jared Goff in the playoffs went up and down the field on them. Sam Darnold was having success in that final game. Their defense is not what it was a couple years ago. Aaron Donald, obviously, I think Aaron Donald retired. I'm trying to retain all these things, but he's gone. So
after Jalen Ramsey left too.
He's been gone for a while. They lost a couple pieces. They lost a major piece to the Browns a couple years ago. So they need to shore up that secondary big time. Okay, Pittsburgh taking on Marius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. I like this here. There's a lot of offensive tackle action in the draft. A lot of them could be interchangeable in my opinion. So we're just going to have Pittsburgh taking Mims. I feel that they need to protect their quarterback, whoever it will be. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Russell, Justin Fields.
They just want to be able to fairly evaluate whoever they end up putting in there. Right. So they need to build up that line to make sure that they're giving everyone a fair chance.
Absolutely. Miami, Quinion Mitchell, number 21 here, cornerback out of Toledo. Just same kind of story with Jacksonville and some of these other teams that had poor defensive play at points during the season. I mean, Miami showed flashes, but I feel like it always came against a lowly team, like the Raiders, and even that game was actually relatively close. They got carved up in the playoffs. They need to become tougher too, and I think that a little Quinion Mitchell action could help in that category because they went down to Kansas City in the cold and they got absolutely boat raced. They didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, no, this feels like a good pick. I mean, Miami is just kind of known for being like the fast, like quick, kind of sneaky little team. And I think Quinion would fit that well. They need to build up their defense because their offense was pretty solid throughout the whole year.
Yeah, it was consistent.
Yeah, and so they really struggled with just letting other teams have their way.
Lamar threw 5 touchdown passes on the Dolphins last year. So.
Exactly. So, build up their defense here with a nice new cornerback and also another guy who's really quick and would fit in well with your entire team dynamic.
I would agree. We have Philadelphia taking Chop Robinson at 22, edge rusher out of Penn State. Oh, man. Baker Mayfield was nearly perfect against the Eagles in that playoff game. I mean, the Eagles, out of all these teams, probably was the worst defensively down the stretch. The Giants, they play them twice. Should have probably beat them twice. Who else? Oh, Dallas put up huge numbers on the last time they played. It all started with that 49ers game, of course, where they absolutely destroyed the Eagles. The Bills put up big numbers against the Eagles. Who else beat the Eagles down the stretch? Oh, man.
I mean, I know they lost like their last 6 games of the regular season.
Yeah, it was like crazy. They lost like 6 or 7. Trying to think who else they played. Oh, yeah, they lost to Drew Lock, backup quarterback for the Eagles, or for the Seahawks, rather. So, yeah, they need some major defensive help, especially after they lost some of those guys that they had there on the defensive line.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Cleveland, their pick that is now Houston's, will go for Troy Fautanu, an inside offensive lineman here from Washington. Just feels like protect the young quarterback. Like that's the vibe here.
Yeah,
protect CJ Stroud.
Exactly. I mean,
they're
CJ
totally fine on the receiver, running back. I mean, they got depth in all those places.
I mean, now they have Stephon Diggs. They still have Nico Collins and Tank Dell when he comes back. They're kind of set in that regard, and they need to make sure that CJ's protected because he feels like their guy for years to come.
Yeah, if he got injured, they would be pretty screwed.
Yeah.
Was it?
Is it David Mills?
Could be Davis Mills, but
Or
it was
Davis
Case
Mills.
Keenum who
Yeah.
started the games that he was out last time. So that would definitely be my area of concern for the Texans. Another Texas team here, Dallas, taking Brian Thomas Jr., receiver from LSU. I think this is just like when they drafted CD Lamb. They didn't necessarily need a receiver at that point. They still had Amari Cooper, I believe, at that point, but it was best player available. And Brian Thomas Jr. is a really solid receiver, and we kind of emerging from all that offensive tackle, cornerback medley, middle of the first round. Coming out of that, Dallas says, we're just going to take best player available. Brandon Cooks is getting older. We can't just rely on CeeDee Lamb for absolutely everything.
Yeah, defenses are going to eventually come up with a way to guard him properly. I know he's
just
still
against Green Bay.
Yeah.
He was shut down pretty good against Green Bay, all things considered.
Yeah, I know. So being able to add a second threat on there would really help out Dallas.
We have Green Bay, speak of the devil, taking Cooper DeJean, cornerback from Iowa. This might be the first ever white cornerback to go in the first round. Like, literally, I'm not even kidding. And so I just think one of those teams that needs a defensive help. Although it improved drastically as the season went on, we do have to remember that they gave up 30 points to the Panthers, which was the highest point total for the Panthers all year. That really hurt me in some of my fantasy leagues. Man, I was like, surely I could take the Packers defense. They play the Giants and the Panthers. Man, those are going to be phenomenal performances. But Tommy DeVito and Bryce Young shredded the Green Bay's defense, so that is the inspiration for this pick here.
Yeah, no, I like the pick, dude. I think it makes sense. Green Bay, yeah, their offensive assets are already pretty solid. They're not necessarily superstars, but they're all decent.
They got Josh Jacobs now. They have a lot of young talent in the receiver room, so they have to go defensive.
Yeah, I like the
Even
pick.
if it's not Cooper, it's got to be someone on the defensive side of the ball. Now, if I'm not tweaking here, Tampa Bay's center, who went on the IR, Ryan Jensen, great player, but he retired. He's done, so they need a center. It's going to be Jackson Powers-Johnson here out of Oregon.
Is this our first center in the first round, I believe,
right? It is. First and only. So, just feels good. They always had a good center in Ryan Jensen, but he got injured, and now he's retired. So, I feel like this is the route to go here. Yeah. They were able to retain Mike Evans, so I don't think they're going to need a receiver, which is what a lot of people originally had before Mike Evans signed that deal.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. It does feel like center is a good fit for them here.
All right. So, Houston traded their pick to Arizona. Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas. That's who we have here. Arizona, again, they needed that receiver. Now they need to shore up the defensive side of the ball here. But again, a team with a lot of needs that really could go in any direction. I would not be surprised if they took another receiver. If they took someone for the offensive line. They really do need help in multiple areas here, but we're going to go Byron Murphy.
Yeah, what do they really have on their team at this point? It's like they have Kyler Murray, and that's pretty much it.
A lot of people are even questioning Kyler Murray. So.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, they really could go either way.
As of the last few weeks here, Buffalo has developed a major need in the receiver room.
Badly
after losing Stephon Diggs. Of course, Gabe Davis got shipped off to Jacksonville. So it's going to be Adonai Mitchell here, wide receiver out of Texas. I do like this pick quite a bit. I feel like they have to take a receiver. It's one of those non-negotiables. Khalil Shakir, solid. Curtis Samuel, solid. They need somebody else, and they can't just rely on those tight ends. So
I agree, yeah.
It's going to be Adonai Mitchell here, in my opinion.
Do you think, I know we don't have it listed, but do you think Buffalo would consider trying to trade up to actually snag one of these better receivers and maybe a Brian Thomas Jr. or even if Rome Odunze was still available?
Yeah, I could absolutely see that for sure. That's a good point, especially if they can notice that Brian Thomas Jr. is falling or Rome Odunze is falling all the way to 15. You can get some good value there. I think both of those picks, there's some value in it. Whereas before we were thinking some of these teams might need a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could still see maybe Pittsburgh taking one, but Cincinnati was able to keep T. Higgins, so they may not take one now. There's a lot of places that probably are okay. So maybe we'll see some of these receivers fall, and then Buffalo can kind of pounce trade up just a little bit to get someone a little bit better, because I don't love all these receivers here toward the bottom of the first round, beginning of the second. They all are very interchangeable to me. We'll get to another one here soon. For Detroit, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. Now, I feel like I've said this a ton today, but this defense had some abysmal outings. I think I'm going to go to this stat every time we talk about it. Nick Mullins threw for like 800 yards in 2 starts, 3 touchdowns, like 6 interceptions. But, I mean, he was just shredding. I mean, he threw the ball like a gun. So he was not scared.
Yeah.
He got picked off a ton, but he threw for literally 800 yards. I'm not kidding. I think it was 411 and like 396 between 2 starts.
That's unreal, bro.
And it was literally like they were only 3 weeks apart, the games. I'm going to have to double check that because I want to get the stats down pat, because it is crazy to let Nick Mullins just pull your pants down in front of everybody.
I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, those 400-plus yard games are not, very common these days.
No.
And, I mean, it really didn't happen much at all this whole year. And then to think that Nick Mullins is the guy who comes in and does it twice, basically, in the span of just a few weeks, definitely is a sign of concern there.
So I was correct so far. The second game, the final game, played on January 7th. Nick Mullins threw for 396 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The first game was indeed 411 yards.
Wow.
So I was absolutely correct. 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So I was correct on the interceptions.
Yeah.
But I gave him 1 less touchdown. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Either way, though,
4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
Doesn't really make a difference.
I'm so sorry, Nick, but at least I got the stats pretty gosh darn close off the top of my head.
Yeah.
All right. Baltimore taking Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Kentucky here. Again, protect Lamar. This would be his year to get injured. He kind of gets injured every other year. Although I think there were 2 years back-to-back where he got injured. But he goes down. You're screwed. Tyler Huntley just can't do it. We've seen him many, many times now. I mean, Mason Rudolph got him this past year. I remember Tyler Huntley making a start against the Bengals last year, the year before, when they did sneak into the playoffs still. So, yeah, Lamar is your entire team.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is already so solid, so I feel like they just got to roll with an offensive lineman here.
Yeah, absolutely. San Francisco taking Darius Robinson, edge rusher out of Mizzou here. Again, this is a team like Indianapolis, but just way better.
Yeah.
They're kind of good everywhere. As long as Brandon Ayuk doesn't dip out because of that Fortnite thing. Yeah. They're totally fine. Literally everywhere.
Setting up Darius Robinson on the other side from Nick Bosa, this is going to seriously make the 49ers a major threat on defense. And they already were.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So they're just building depth.
Yeah, scary to line up across from them.
Now, what Kansas City, or someplace that doesn't have depth, is Kansas City in the wide receiver room. They got Hollywood Brown, but all their other receivers are just super subpar. So let's get that speed demon Xavier Worthy up in here. Yeah. Out of Texas, set the record at the Combine. You had this guy going to Kansas City in your mock draft. I was not huge on him, but we're going to toss him in here. Yeah. It just seems right.
Yeah, no,
it feels good.
It feels like it would fill the shoes of missing Tyreek Hill with the absolute speedster that he is.
I still think they need somebody, even though they did get Hollywood since our last mock draft.
Yeah, I agree.
So there you have it. All 32 picks of the first round. Analyzed, broken down. We'll see what happens. It really is kind of a mystery this year, aside from the first pick and maybe that Dallas Turner pick. Everything else feels like it go literally any direction. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Looking forward to just kind of putting the speculation to rest and being able to talk about the results.
Yeah, no, can't wait for that. Draft is, this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we will be discussing everything that goes on next week when we do our episode. But let's get into our best bets here. I'm going to let you go first and talk about your awesome week. I just especially want to praise you on tossing the your special baseball bet in here after all. Because what a monster pick. Why don't you tell everyone about it?
Yeah, peer pressuring me into it because I literally was not going to put it on here until you were like, come on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that Parker pitcher came out, made his debut. He allowed a couple runs, but he shut down the Dodgers for the most part, and then he went out again and played even better against the Astros. Just completely shut them out, more than even shutting them down. So, yeah, the Nationals are not a bad team. They're very liable to be a threat next year once they kind of take care of a few more holes, get rid of that freaking Patrick Corbin clown. But, yeah, 310 plus 310 was a big win for me. And then Atlanta at Chicago. Chicago -3. That one just always felt good to me. So that one also cashed.
Love the picks, dude. Really great week from
Thank you.
You know, that's like the best or the like highest odds that we've hit. It might even be like almost ever in the pod because I don't think that like I've ever tossed a bet in there that was plus 300 or more, and we hit that. So
yeah, no, it is. Yeah, that probably is one of the larger ones. But who knows? Maybe your OKC plus 1600 will come through.
I mean, it's possible, but yeah, we'll see. My one bet that I did give last week that already like finished was the Lakers to beat the Pelicans, and this one just felt so obvious to me. Like, obviously, LeBron is going to get into the playoffs here, although it was a little bit closer than I was expecting. The game was 110-106, and Zion on the Pelicans tossed up a 40-burger, which is
40-burger.
Definitely scary. And even in a game where they only scored 106, I mean, the guy
went out, right? Because of injury.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous that he was able to toss up so many points there. But I'm glad the Lakers still pulled through. It was only a -110 on the money line. But, yeah, so that's all I have for that. And then my other best bets were OKC to win the finals and Indianapolis Pacers to win the finals. OKC won their first game against the Pelicans. Indianapolis lost their first game against the Bucks. But we will keep updating you guys as those picks come to fruition.
Still developing.
Yes, exactly.
So the Dodgers and the Nationals play again this week, but now it's in Washington. I almost just want to keep hammering them.
Hammer him again?
I want to give you guys a blind squirrel bet here. You know, you've inspired me to take some blind odds. And not going to do the spreads for baseball. We're just going to do the money lines.
Blind money line, yeah.
Are not scheduled yet. I'm going to take San Francisco to beat the Mets on Wednesday, 2:45 p.m. Central Time. It's in San Francisco, okay?
Okay.
San Francisco may be favored, but it's going to be very close. It's going to probably be around the pick'em game. Blake Snell's pitching, and he's been poo so far this year. Absolute garbo. And then, why not? I'll take the Nationals yet again to beat the Dodgers on Thursday at 3:05 p.m. CST. You have Mackenzie Gore pitching against Yamamoto, who is definitely the Dodgers. Well, I guess Tyler Glasnow would be their best. But, hey, they already beat Tyler Glasnow, so why not go ahead and take care of Yamamoto as well? Gore coming off of a bad outing. I think he'll be able to bounce back here, especially at home. So whatever those will be, I'm sure the Nationals will be in plus money. The Giants will be pretty close to a pick'em.
Good stuff there, man.
Yeah.
I like it. I've got a couple best bets here as well on the basketball playoffs. So the Dallas Mavericks at the Los Angeles Clippers. They play again tomorrow, Tuesday. Dallas lost their first game against the Clippers. I don't think that's going to happen again on Tuesday. We are going to roll with Dallas Mavericks money line. This is -135 right now, so they're favored to win. I really do feel confident that they're not going to drop 2-0 in this series.
Yeah.
And then we've got New Orleans Pelicans at OKC Thunder. OKC -7.5 on Wednesday is what I'm going to be taking. The last game that OKC played, they only won 94-92 against the Pelicans. And I mean, that feels ridiculous to me. I mean, OKC is the much better team. I didn't think that the game would be that close. This feels like it was just an off game.
Yeah.
And now they're going to come back and they're going to cover this 7.5 point spread. They're going to win, I think, in double-digit numbers here.
I like it. Hopefully we can continue to have some success. Been seeing a lot of green here on the bet sheet. So
yes, sir.
Love that.
Yeah, I do want to add in, sadly, a little bad beat that occurred over the weekend. It wasn't for me, but I just saw it online. Damian Lillard's point total over under on the game was 35.5. Okay.
Did you get hooked?
He put up 35 in the first half and didn't score a single point.
No way.
The rest of the game.
That's crazy.
Bro, how does that happen?
How does that happen? Sounds rigged at that point.
It feels that way.
Yeah, that's just. It's like.
How do you put up 35 and then what? Do nothing? He didn't even get injured.
It's like I need to see your phone at that point.
Yeah.
I need to see who you're texting.
Right.
Whoever had the hand, was it him himself? Was it the coach to sit him during the second half more? I don't know what it was, but that just feels wonky to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And honestly, it scares me doing bets at this point in time, just because of there's so many players who seem to keep getting caught for these like betting situations. It just keeps coming to light. It's like, I mean, these guys can clearly have some influence some way. I know it's against the rules, but it's happening pretty frequently. And so it's hard to come up with bets when you're literally betting against real people who are actually like influencing the outcomes.
They could have some sort of influence, like you're saying.
Exactly.
But hey, that's why we're not professional athletes, because we couldn't go without sports betting.
Right. Yeah.
And we want to follow the rules.
Of course.
Of course. Okay. So that's all we have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed the mock draft. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Feel free to write in using the email address in the description, and I will allow it. You can yell in, mad at me, JJ McCarthy, something about your team taking a player you don't want. I'll handle it. We'll handle it. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
You could be mean to me. You could be mean to us. Okay? All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye now.